Díomh Corda Galéir, my name is James Nagle, welcome to The Irish Nation Lives. In this episode I'm going to take a look at the start of the Intelligence War, the conflict fought largely in Dublin between forces under the command of Michael Collins and various branches of British intelligence, most notably the Dublin Metropolitan Police. In October 1917, Michael Collins was appointed as Irish Volunteers Director of Operations, and Éamon Duggan was appointed as Director of Intelligence. Collins quickly grew dissatisfied by Duggan's performance, however, and by January of 1919 he had effectively usurped the position for himself, attending meetings of the volunteers in Duggan's place. Also in January of 1919 he met with Eamon Broy for the first time, a detective sergeant and clerk in G Division of the Dublin Metropolitan Police. G Division was responsible for political crime. It detailed agents to record the activities of major figures in the Republican movement and served as the eyes and ears of British rule in Ireland. Broy had become disillusioned with his work in G Division and began feeding intelligence reports to the Irish Republican Brotherhood. In May of 1918 he warned of the planned German plot arrests, which allowed many of those targeted to escape, and Collins decided it was time to meet with him and discuss future plans. They agreed that the best course of action was to eliminate G Division by warning its agents to stop pursuing Republicans and killing those who refused. Collins believed that in the absence of detailed information on the Republican movement, British forces wouldn't know who was responsible for the escalating attacks throughout the country. This would cause them to retaliate against innocent people or entire communities, driving these people into the hands of the Republicans. On the 6th of April, Broy smuggled Collins into DMP headquarters at Great Brunswick Street, and here he spent the night going through G Division's files, which went back to the mid-1800s. Collins was able to get a better understanding of how G Division was structured, who its most important agents were, and how to go about combating them. Collins had been itching for a fight for some time, and in February, following Éamon de Valera's escape from prison, he wrote in a letter to Austin Stack that all ordinary peaceful means are ended, and we shall be taking the only alternative actions in a short while now. De Valera had other ideas, however, believing that Ireland's goals could be achieved through the Paris Peace Conference. Collins complained in another letter to Stack that De Valera had made things intolerable for militants, so it should come as no surprise that the intelligence war didn't kick off until after De Valera departed for the United States in June. As the Irish volunteers began to threaten DMP agents, resignations began to increase, while older members of the force who were close to retirement on pensions or who would have found it difficult to get new work requested transfers out of G Division. Many of those that stayed on kept their heads down and took to heart the warnings to go easy on known Republicans. But a handful refused to be intimidated by what they viewed as law-breaking thugs and doubled down on their efforts to catch members of the Irish Volunteers. One such individual was Detective Sergeant Patrick Smith. Smith had arrested Piers Beasley for making a seditious speech and found a number of incriminating documents on him. He produced these documents in court after being warned numerous times not to do so, and Beasley was sentenced to 2 years in prison instead of the 2 months he would have gotten otherwise. In the middle of July, Richard Mulcahy, the Chief of Staff of the Irish Volunteers, and Cathal Brugha, the Minister for Defence, met with Michael Collins and authorised him to kill Detective Sergeant Smith. Collins delegated the task to Dick McKee, Brigadier of the Dublin Brigade, and Mick McDonnell, Quartermaster of the Brigade's 2nd Battalion. They selected a number of men from the brigade and asked them if they had any objections to shooting enemy agents. Those who did not were informed that they had been selected for special duties, the first of which was to kill Smith. McDonnell ordered 4 men, Tom Kehoe, Tom Ennis, Jim Slattery and Mick Kennedy, to go to Drumcondra Bridge where Smith would get off the tram close to his home. After waiting for an opportunity for several nights, the men attacked Smith on the 30th of July. Though they fired up to 12 shots at him, hitting him in the back and the leg, Smith was able to run to his house and get inside, even while being pursued by his attackers. He was taken to hospital and was able to give statements to the police and the newspapers. Though heavily injured, Smith would live on until the 8th of September. In response to his death and other attacks throughout the country, the All Éireann was suppressed on the 12th of September, and that evening, Detective Constable Daniel Hoy was shot and killed on Collins's orders, possibly in retaliation for a raid on his office earlier that day. McDonnell was dissatisfied with the operation against Smith, declaring that it was a mess. It was a nerve-wracking few weeks for those involved as they worried that Smith would recover and identify them. In assessing what had gone wrong with the operation, it was deemed that the .38 revolvers the men had used were not powerful enough. Collins immediately put out the call for .45 revolvers, which would be used in all future operations. It wasn't the most convincing start, but the intelligence war had begun. The men selected by McKee and McDonnell for this first mission will go on to form the nucleus of the Squad, the fabled assassination unit, which would carry out some of the most dramatic attacks of the War of Independence. The Squad won't be formally established until a meeting on the 19th of September, when McDonnell is appointed as officer commanding. With de Valera in the United States and Dáil Éireann driven underground, Michael Collins will finally have the freedom to wage war against British authorities as he sees fit. But that is all over a month away. First, in August, as violent attacks throughout the country increase, Dáil Éireann will attempt to exert control over the Irish volunteers by making them swear an oath of allegiance, an oath by which they would become the Irish Republican Army. If you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to be kept up to date with new episodes covering this and other events in the War of Independence. Accorda, thank you for joining me on The Irish Nation Lives. Slán go fóill.